In a world where betrayal hides behind family smiles and pride buries the humble one-man, silence was mistaken for weakness, until destiny called his name again. This is the story of Kendrick Peterson, the man they called worthless, until he revealed to them that he owned it all. Sit back, relax, and watch what happens when the rejected returns as royalty. If you didn't watch part 1, do well to click on your subscribe button, as we are about to bring you into a world of pleasure amidst exciting twists. Kendrick stood by the gatehouse, phone still warm in his hand, stunned that the voice on the line was his father's. For 3 years, the name Peterson had been a ghost, a memory he'd been punished for, laughed at for, and taught to forget. Now that voice said simply, "My son," and everything inside him shifted. He tried to make sense of it. Why would Peterson Davis come looking for him after all this time? Who would travel across states for a man everyone else had written off? He answered the question he already knew. He didn't know. The silence cramped him until he muttered his location, each word tasting unreal. "I'm on the outskirts of Congress Avenue, Austin, Texas." When he returned to the Rogers mansion, the air still carried the echoes of a party winding down. Catherine Rogers stood like a queen among her family, throwing words like stones. "Are you coming to ask for the payment now? Why can't you just flee and wait till the visitors leave?" She barked when Kendrick approached. "I didn't come to ask for that, Ma," Kendrick said, the words small. "Then what else? Go and arrange the hall with the maids instead of standing there idle." Her voice pulled the rest of the family's attention like a leash. Alexander laughed, fishing out a few bills and tossing them toward Kendrick. "Take this. That should fetch you something important." They laughed, a chorus he'd heard 1,000 times. Louis snorted. Louis's mother, Peace, made a small, bitter comment, and Catherine added a final stab. "He should be grateful we even tolerate him." Kendrick's throat tightened. He hadn't come for money. He hadn't come for pity. He wanted to say thank you, a simple, honest gratitude to the few kind hands that had steadied him in this house. But the words felt ridiculous under their sneers. "Want to," he began, and Alexander interrupted with more mockery. He held his ground, breathed in the hot weight of their ridicule, and walked away toward the gate as if that was where the world allowed him to be. 20 minutes passed. Dizziness loosened the edges of his thoughts. He sat by the gatehouse wall, trying to gather himself, to stop the racing curiosity that arrived with his father's call. Then he heard it, a distant rumble that grew into a thunder of engines. Lights cut across the estate. Sirens wailed. A convoy rolled in, police cars flanked a procession of gleaming sports cars, and at the center, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided like an animal that owned the road. The Rogers family froze. Catherine, who had moments ago been preening in superiority, moved toward the veranda with a greedy smile. For once, her focus wasn't on humiliating Kendrick. It was on welcoming a guest whose arrival declared status. Kendrick watched, unmoving. He had never seen anything like the spectacle that now filled the driveway. Wealth had always meant something cruel here. Tonight it pulsed like a threat. The gate rolled open. A police officer barked a command, and the driver obediently halted. Then, almost theatrically, the Rolls door opened and a woman stepped out. She was striking, crimson silk hugging her in a way that suggested both danger and authority. In her hand, she held a dagger. For a second, shock replaced every other feeling inside him. Memories tumbled up. The day Kelly had been maimed, the way danger had once followed family ties like a curse. "What the?" Kendrick whispered, instinct pushing him back. She walked toward him with measured steps, dagger glinting. People back at the veranda murmured and made assumptions. Arrest, scandal, payoff. The Rogers family who'd been so confident now gaped at the scene they didn't control. "Not a step closer," Kendrick cried, panic sharpening his voice. She paused, almost amused. Then she bowed, a small formal gesture that didn't match the blade she still held. "Take it easy, young master," she said. "Your father sent orders for heavy protection, ensuring you return safely." Kendrick's heart hammered. She dropped the dagger to the ground and raised her hands. An officer moved forward and pocketed the blade. "Who are you?" Kendrick demanded. She produced an ID from a Porsche bag and offered it as proof. Bold letters read, "Ivy Niver." The Peterson Consortium logo sat like a stamp of authority. "Ivy Niver," she said, "Peterson Consortium Security." Kendrick's phone buzzed. The display read, "Dad calling." He swallowed and answered, voice trembling. "My son," his father said over the line. "There's something I must tell you." Kendrick braced. "What is it? Is mother?" "It's about your mother," his father said. The words landed like a blow. The phone slipped from Kendrick's fingers and hit the ground. He looked at Ivy. He looked at the convoy. At Catherine, at Lewis, at Alexander, their faces sliding from scorn into curiosity and fear. The world that had humiliated him felt suddenly small and brittle, like a stage with the curtains being yanked away. "Take me to my fortress," Kendrick said, voice steadier than he felt. "Now." Ivy nodded, bowing once more with the faintest of smiles. Men moved to open the car doors. A burly guard stepped out of a Ferrari and saluted. Kendrick climbed into the rolls. The engines roared, sirens flared, and they left. A clean, roaring line of power dissolving into the night. As the convoy pulled away, the Rogers family stood at the gate, mouths open, questions unfinished. Catherine's hand shook. Louis' smirk had gone stiff. Peace turned on her heel and disappeared inside, as if the sight of the shimmering cars had burned something inside her bones. Kendrick sat back in the leather seat and let the world blur. The thought that held him was smaller than revenge or riches. It was a raw human pull. His father had called. Whatever lay ahead was tangled with his mother's fate, and the knowledge that everything, his past humiliation, his public shaming, the nights he'd been forced into invisibility, might be the beginning of something else. He watched the estate fade in the rearview. Behind him, the Rogers mansion dwindled into a cluster of lights and whispered memories. Ahead, the dark road promised answers,